The Fatimid dynasty came to power in Ifriqiya, modern-day Tunisia, in 909 AD. In contrast to their predecessors, who were content to remain a regional dynasty on the western fringes of the Abbasid Caliphate, the Fatimids held ecumenical pretensions. They claimed descent from Fatima, the daughter of Muhammad and the wife of Ali. The Fatimid caliphs were simultaneously the leaders of the Ismaili Shia sect, whose followers accorded them divine status as imams, the vicegerents of God on earth. The Fatimids viewed their rise to power as the first step in the restoration of their rightful place as leaders of the entire Muslim world against the usurping Sunni Abbasids, whom they were determined to overthrow and replace. Their first objective to achieve this goal was to capture Egypt, which was the gateway to the Levant and Iraq. They launched their first invasion of Egypt in 914. They succeeded in capturing Cyrenaica, Alexandria, and the Fayoum oasis. However, the Abbasid reinforcements arrived from Syria and Iraq, and the Fatimids were driven back to their original position. They launched a second invasion in 919 to 921. They again captured Alexandria and moved in an attempt to take the capital, Fustat, but they were again driven back over the desert to Ifriqiya. This video is sponsored by Kingdom Maker, a free-to-play mobile game set in a stylized fantasy world, which combines RTS, RPG, and sim gameplay, but with a novel twist that will both make you laugh and impress you with clever features. Create your nobles and use them in immersive social gameplay, research, trading, combat, dungeon exploration, and even sacrifice nobles in a volcano, or get a little romantic and make more nobles. Develop commanders and recruit champions to lead the charge, and build extremely customizable and fun armies. Join real-time massive battles until the defending city falls or attackers run out of expendable peasants. Every battle is announced in global chat, so anyone can spectate and join whichever side they want. Rally your online friends under a shared banner and pursue complete and absolute domination, or take a peaceful route and strike a peace accord or trade goods for the prosperity of the people. Use my link below to download the game. It's available on both iOS and Android. You'll have a ton of fun. Kingdom Maker has a unique, fresh game design and social systems lurking around every corner that will leave both new and genre players delighted. You can play on both iOS and Android. Download the game using the link below. Big thanks to Kingdom Maker for sponsoring this video. The reasons for the failure to take Egypt was the Fatimid overextension and the concomitant failure to achieve decisive success before the arrival of Abbasid reinforcements. Meanwhile, a political shift occurred in Egypt in the 930s. At that time, a period of lawlessness had been established in the region, and the Abbasids sent commander Muhammad ibn Tugh al-Ikhshid to quell it. He succeeded in that. However, he became independent from the Abbasids and founded the Ikhshidid dynasty. Although officially a vassal of the Abbasid Caliphate, for all intents and purposes, it was an independent state. During this time, the revolutionary fervor that had brought the Fatimids to power had faded, but the claims to universal sovereignty were not forgotten. However, they were put on hold, as in 943 to 947, a large-scale revolt had broken out, led by the preacher Abu Yazid. The revolt nearly brought the Fatimid government to collapse, but it was successfully suppressed. Meanwhile, Egypt was undergoing a period of relative peace. After the death of al-Ikhshid, the power passed to the strongman Abu al-Misk Kafur. He was a black eunuch slave whom al-Ikhshid had appointed as commander-in-chief of the army. For the next 20 years, the official leaders of the region were al-Ikhshid's sons, but in 966, Kafur assumed the throne in his own right. By the 950s, the Abbasid caliphs had become the powerless pawns of the Umayyads. This instability in the region offered the Fatimids opportunity to establish themselves as the universal Muslim power. By the 960s, the Ikhshidids were also facing a crisis, a combination of domestic tensions and external pressures. The Christian Nubian kingdom of Makuria launched invasions of Egypt from the south, while in the west, the Levata Berbers occupied the region around Alexandria and allied themselves with local Bedouin tribes of the western desert to confront the Ikhshidid troops. In Syria, increasing Bedouin restiveness challenged Ikhshidid rule, especially as it coincided with an invasion of Syria by the Karmatians, an Ismaili sect based in Bahrain. Frequently allied with the Bedouins, the Karmatians raided the caravans of merchants and Hajj pilgrims alike, with the Ikhshidids unable to counter their attacks. The situation was such that the overland routes from Egypt to Iraq were practically cut. Furthermore, the 960s saw the Byzantine Empire under Nicephorus II focus, expand at the expense of the Islamic world, capturing Crete, Cyprus, and Cilicia, and advancing into northern Syria. The Ikhshidids' government's response to this advance was hesitant and ineffective. After doing nothing to help Crete, the fleet sent in response to the fall of Cyprus was destroyed by the Byzantine navy, leaving the coasts of Egypt and Syria defenseless. Fatimid propaganda was quick to exploit the Byzantine offensive, contrasting the ineffectiveness of the Ikhshidids and their Abbasid suzerains with the Fatimids, who at the time were successfully fighting with the Byzantines in southern Italy as vigorous champions of Islam. In 968, Abu al-Miskafur died without leaving an heir. This paralyzed the Ikhshidid government. It was decided that al-Ikhshid's 11-year-old grandson, Abul Fawaris Ahmad ibn Ali, would become the new emir. His uncle, the governor of Palestine, al-Hasan ibn Ubayd Allah, was made regent. The position of vizier was given to Ibn al-Furat, while the slave soldier Shamul al-Ikhshidi became the commander-in-chief. This pact quickly unraveled. Shamul lacked any real authority over the army, while al-Furat began arresting his rivals in the administration. This led to the regent, Ubayd Allah, arriving from Palestine and occupying the capital, Fustat. He imprisoned al-Furat, but his efforts to establish authority failed. He returned to Palestine, leaving Egypt effectively without government. By the 950s, the situation in the Fatimid Caliphate had improved. In 953, al-Mu'izz din Allah became the new caliph. He would prove to be a skilled ruler. By 965-966, he began preparations for a new invasion of Egypt. General Yahar was appointed to lead the invasion. At this time, he recruited men and raised funds. In December 968, he returned to the Fatimid capital of Al-Mansuriya with a fresh amount of troops and 500,000 dinars. On 26th of December 968, Yahar set up his tent at Rakada, and the expedition began to assemble under his supervision. Caliph al-Mu'izz came almost daily to the growing camp from the nearby palace city of Al-Mansuriya. On 6th of February, following a formal ceremony presided over by the caliph in person, the Fatimids launched their invasion. We have little information on how it went in the first months, but by May of the year, the Fatimids entered the Nile Delta, and Yahar occupied Alexandria without resistance, and erected a fortified camp at Arujah, on the western edge of the delta, close to Alexandria, while his vanguard advanced towards the Fayum oasis. By the end of the month, Yahar was the master of the west bank of the Nile, from the sea to the Fayum. In June, negotiations between the two sides took place, but went nowhere. On June 26th, Yahar resumed the invasion. On June 28th, the Fatimids occupied the Rabda Island, which controlled passage over the pontoon bridge that connected Fustat with Giza on the western shore of the Nile, where Yahar had set up camp. The first engagement came on the 29th, but Yahar was forced to withdraw. After that, Yahar decided to cross the river elsewhere. On 3rd of July, the two armies clashed, and the Fatimids prevailed. On July 6th, Yahar entered into Fustat. He led the Friday prayer in the Mosque of Amr in Fustat, where the Sunni preacher dressed in alid white and reading the unfamiliar phrases from a note, recited the khutbah, a sermon in the name of Al-Mu'izz. The Fatimid Conquest of Egypt was complete. After the conquest of Egypt, the Fatimids advanced and took Jerusalem and Damascus. They then sieged Antioch, which was broken by the Byzantines. During this time, Jafar began erecting a new capital, which would become Cairo, for his master, at the site of his encampment. Its centerpiece, the Al-Azhar Mosque, was begun by Jafar on 4th of April 970 and completed in the summer of 972. In 973, the Caliph Al-Mu'izz took up residence in the city, which would become the seat of Fatimid Caliphate until its absolution in 1171. If you stayed around this far, thank you for watching. And if you'd like to support our work like all these amazing people do, head over to our Patreon page where you can get ad-free early access to our videos for as little as $1. Or you can support us by clicking like and subscribing to our channel and leaving a comment as a sacrifice to the gods of the algorithm. As always, thank you for watching.